Hello and welcome. The purpose of today's technical assistance recording is to provide a high-level overview of our office's comparability reporting process from start to finish. In reviewing this process, we will discuss the technical reporting and submission requirements. Lastly, we will discuss the report in detail along with the rubric that will be used to review PSU submissions. Please note, comparability submission and CCIP will look different for the 23-24 school year. Detailed information about the submission process will be shared near the end of the recording. I am Shauna Andrews, the Consolidated Program Administrator for the Northeast. Presenting with me today is Dr. Masay Kinsey Ship, the Consolidated Program Administrator for the Piedmont Triad. I will be approving comparability reports for the East, and Dr. Kinsey Ship will be approving comparability reports for the West. Today's recording will be accompanied by an FAQ and other resources to assist with reporting and submission. The comparability team will also be available during the Consolidated and ESSER office hours on October 4th and November 1st at 10 a.m.
Thank you, Shauna. Comparability of services is a fiscal requirement for recipients of Title I Part A funds under the Every Student Succeeds Act. This requirement is an assessment of services provided at Title I Part A and non-Title I Part A campuses. Local educational agencies that receive Title I Part A funds must use their state and local funds to provide comparable services at their campuses receiving Title I Part A funds and their campuses that are not receiving Title I Part A funds. An LEA is considered to have met the statutory comparability requirements if it has implemented an LEA-wide salary schedule, a policy to ensure equivalence among schools and teachers, administrators, and other staff, and a policy to ensure equivalence among schools in the provision of curriculum materials and instructional supplies. The North Carolina Department of Public Instruction has developed a standard for comparing student instructional staff ratios. School systems must complete an annual comparability status report that compares the average number of students per instructional staff in each Title I-A school with the average number of students per instructional staff in schools not participating in Title I-A. Comparability is reported through CCIP in the History Log section. Assurance forms A through D will be available in a workbook format, one form per grouping. Prior to submission, remove all forms that are not chosen by the PSU for reporting. The due date for comparability reports to be uploaded into CCIP is December 1st, 2023. There are comparability exclusions. A PSU must exclude any resources paid with federal funds and private funds. Also, a PSU may exclude state and local funds expended for bilingual education for English learners, excess costs for providing services to students with disabilities, or supplemental state or local funds used to meet the intent and purpose of Title I. There are comparability exemptions. The comparability requirement does not apply to a school with 100 or fewer students, a PSU with only one school for each grade span, and a school with no comparison school in the same grade span grouping by enrollment size. Exempt and non-exempt PSUs must complete and submit the comparability assurance in CCIP. PSUs are not required to include unpredictable changes in student enrollment or personnel assignments after the selected point in time. PSU-funded alternative schools and virtual schools must be included in the respective grade span. The comparison is made between like grade spans, elementary to elementary, middle to middle, high school to high school. Student-teacher ratios and/or expenditures are calculated between Title I-A schools and non-Title I-A schools. All students enrolled in Title I-A and the non-Title I-A schools must be included in the report. Kindergarten students are included, and their count is determined by whether they attend full or half-day sessions. Grade spans are defined as kindergarten through 5th, 6th through 8th, and 9th through 12th in North Carolina. All schools within a grade span, regardless of their grade configuration, must fit in one of the 3 identified grade spans. When it comes to instructional staff, calculate the full-time equivalent numbers of certified and non-certified instructional staff who are paid with state and local funds that are regularly assigned to each school listed. Staff members whose full salaries are paid with federal dollars are not to be included in this report. Each PSU determines the definition of instructional staff. Definitions can include certified classroom teachers, including art, music, physical education, and others providing direct instruction to students, school counselors, speech therapists, media specialists, social workers, psychologists, and others providing support services that impact instruction. When comparing student instructional staff ratios, the PSU must consistently include the same staff members in the ratio for both Title I-A schools and the comparison non-Title I-A schools. Staff salary differentials for years of employment are not included in comparability determinations. Consider carefully whether a paraprofessional supported with state and local funds should be considered equivalent to a teacher or other instructional staff. There are 2 pathways to complete comparability reporting. Pathway A may be chosen if the PSU has the following policies. 1. A PSU unit-wide salary schedule is followed. 2. A policy to ensure equivalence among schools and teachers, administrators, and other staff. And 3. A policy to ensure equivalence among schools in the provision of curriculum materials and instructional supplies. If you choose Pathway A, this is the header sheet you will use. If you answer yes to each of the documents in the equivalence exemption, then comparability has been established. Documents must be uploaded along with this cover sheet into CCIP as documentation. Very few PSUs have qualified using Pathway A, so if you're considering Pathway A, please contact your program administrator before completing this worksheet. If you choose to use Pathway B to demonstrate comparability, there are 4 forms and 2 options for each form. Form A is Title I and non-Title I schools comparing student enrollment to instructional staff. Form B is Title I schools comparing student enrollment to instructional staff. Form C is Title I and non-Title I schools comparing student enrollment to instructional staff. And Form D is Title I schools comparing student enrollment to instructional staff salary. And Form C is comparing student enrollment to instructional staff salary as well. Option 1 utilizes grade span comparisons, while option 2 utilizes large schools compared to large schools and small schools compared to small schools. If you choose Form A, you are comparing Title I to non-Title I student to instructional staff ratio. Enter the information at the top of the document. Enter the information for each school. Student to instructional staff ratio in column 5 must be equal to or less than 110% of the average ratio of the non-Title I schools to be comparable. If you choose Form B, enter all PSU information at the top of the form. Enter the school information in columns 1 through 4. Only Title I schools are compared by student to instructional staff ratio using all schools' grade span or size. The student to staff ratio in column 5 must be equal to or less than 110% of the average ratio of all the Title I schools in the grade span to be comparable. If you choose Form C, enter all PSU information at the top of the form. Enter the school information in columns 1 through 3. Title I and non-Title I schools are compared using student to instructional staff salary ratio by all schools, grade span, or size. The per pupil cost ratio in column 5 must be equal to or greater than 90% of the average ratio of the non-Title I schools to be comparable. If you choose Form D, enter all PSU information at the top of the form. Enter the school information in columns 1 through 4. The PSU lists all Title I schools by grade span. Title I schools can be compared by grade span or size. The student to staff ratio, salary ratio in column 5 must be equal to or more than 90% of the average ratio of all the Title I schools for the schools to be comparable. This is the Title I comparability header sheet. All districts, whether exempt or not, must upload a header sheet into CCIP. Enter all PSU information into the cells. This includes PSU code, name of the PSU, who prepared the report, the title of the person who prepared the report, along with their telephone number and email address. Put the original report date. If corrections are needed, you would enter the original report date and the revised report date. Enter exempt or not exempt in the field. The signature of the PSU assurance representative is required. This person must be the supervisor of the report preparer. The same person completing the report must not be the same person signing the assurance. Enter the name of the assurance representative, their title, and date. You would then upload the appropriate documents into CCIP.
Thank you, Dr. Kinsey Ship. Let's take a moment and look at comparability completion. In the first bullet, all is defined as grade spans receiving Title I funds or receiving comparable services. Again, when you see the word all, it is defined as grade spans receiving Title I funds or comparable services. A large school is defined as schools serving 450 students or more. Remember, comparability is a prerequisite for receiving Title I-A funds, and the data for the report should be pulled from the month of October 2023. Your comparability report is due on or before December 1st, 2023. Again, comparability reports are due by December 1st. Approval and/or feedback will be provided within 30 business days of submission via the history log in CCIP. If you have questions regarding this report, or if an extenuating circumstance prevents an upload by December 1st, please contact Dr. Massey Kinsey Ship or Shauna Andrews. Comparability is a prerequisite for receiving Title I-A funds. Failure to show comparability can put your receipt of these funds in jeopardy. Please remember to retain all data, documents, and reports as artifacts for consolidated monitoring events. You can see on your screen now a comparability report checklist. This is a screenshot of the checklist that we will use. Program administrators will use this document to review comparability reports. You, as a PSU, may choose to use this tool to ensure that your comparability report submission meets all criteria before uploading into CCIP. This is for your individual use. You do not have to submit it, nor do you have to retain a copy of this document for monitoring. We will share this document along with other supplemental resources and webinar materials.
The submission process for the comparability report is very different than in previous years. I will walk you through the submission process at this time. First, the FY24 comparability report templates can be found in the consolidated funding application under the Title 1A 050 related documents on October 1st. Once you have completed the comparability header sheet and appropriate forms, you will save them as a PDF. In the FY 2024 Consolidated Funding Application, under History Log, click Create Comment. Here you're going to place a comment in the comment section. The PSU should write a statement that will indicate the report is ready for review. For example, Wonderful School District has submitted the FY24 comparability report. You will then attach the corresponding documents to the comment after writing the statement. After writing the statement and attaching the files, click the Send Email to North Carolina CCIP Contacts. Check the name of the appropriate PA. So if you are in the eastern part of the state, you will click Shauna Andrews. And if you are in the western part of the state, you will click Massey Kinsey Ship. You will then click Add, click Save, and Go To, and then click Section. The final steps include clicking on the history log to check to ensure that the document is present. Do not send the application to Chief Admin Approved. Again, you do not have to send the application to Chief Admin Approved. Allow 30 business days for a response. If you have not received a response within 30 business days, please send an email to the appropriate PA. Revisions should be submitted in the same manner. One final note. If you have indicated in your consolidated application Title I Grant Details number 17 that you are a single site charter, you will not, be required to submit a comparability header sheet this year. Again, single site charters and labs will not be required to submit a comparability header sheet this year. You are still required to complete the equity plan. Again, all PSUs are required to complete the equity plan. Thank you so much.